Okay, hi there. Most A-level syllabuses these days mention the concept of submarkets, but lots of students don't quite know what that means. So hopefully this short video will help explain it and give you a couple of examples. Here's a question we might focus on. Explain what is meant by a market and by submarkets. Well, market definitions, of course, are relatively straightforward. It's anywhere where buyers and sellers come together to make a transaction, buying and selling goods and services. The buyer and seller don't necessarily have to be in the same place, of course. Lots of businesses now operate on platforms such as Amazon and eBay. The key thing is there is a transaction between buyer and seller. There's suppliers and people buying in the market, and the interaction of supply and demand is crucial in determining market prices and perhaps reaching an equilibrium, the market clearing price where supply equals demand. Lots of examples now of online marketplaces, sort of e-commerce sites where products and services are provided by multiple third-party vendors. Taobao is a Chinese online shopping website headquartered in China, owned by Alibaba, the world's biggest online retailer, and it's now the world's biggest e-commerce site. Indeed, I think it's in the top 10 of the most visited websites in the world, much bigger, of course, than Amazon and eBay. So buyers and sellers now increasingly using platforms to make transactions. So what is a sub-market? A sub-market is where we segment the market into different parts. So we break down a particular market into sub-markets, which often tailor to the different and specific needs and wants of different groups of consumers. One can take the market for new cars as a generic market, but then you can break it down into sub-markets for traditional petrol and diesel cars, for hybrid vehicles, and of course now increasingly for electric vehicles. In the housing market, you can look at the housing market per se in very general terms, or you can think about the sub-markets, the market between residential commercial property, or between terraced housing, flats, and detached housing, for example. You can also submarket according to where the transactions take place. So a big global pharmaceutical company might consider their sales globally, think about the global market, or then break it down by country. Two examples here of submarkets. This is the real estate market in the UK in terms of its size, the retail real estate market. So, for example, the value of markets including food stores, big supermarkets, the value of retail market in terms of shopping centres and also retail warehouses. The sector can be broken down into different sub-markets. And here's one more example. Let's take Pfizer, one of the world's biggest pharmaceutical companies, huge sales globally. This chart shows their annual sales from 2010 through to 2018 in millions of dollars. And then we break it down into their main markets. You can see here that the United States is the dominant market for Pfizer, with sales in excess of $25 billion a year. But notice there's been a rise in 2016, 17, 18 in their sales in the sub-market of emerging market economies. Perhaps countries such as Vietnam, India, China, for example. So you take the market as a whole and then you break it down into sub-markets. This is quite important because oftentimes the degree of monopoly power, for example, the degree to which one or more firms dominates the market, depends on how we define the market. So it's quite important to think about sub-markets at a microeconomic level.